So I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see the ad manager that I'm running here at the moment. Because I'm switching screens and it seems to be okay. So what we're going to do, I'm just jumping into my own business account, and essentially I work for Business Station as a contractor at the moment. So I do help out with these webinars and client sessions, but I'm using my own business manager account here where I've got my own clients, and I'm going to pick and choose one of these. You can see, perfect. Okay. Speaking of coaches, I'm going to grab probably this one here. So this is one of my clients, and she's a life coach. So that's quite similar to what you guys are doing. And I'm going to jump into this because this is an active campaign and it's got some stuff running. But before I get to this point, I'm going to show you and walk you through the actual business manager side of things. So Facebook essentially gives us a tool to manage our ads. Previously, you'd have a very simple version of this, but they've been building this out over time, and people like myself can manage multiple accounts. As you can see, I've got a whole bunch of ad accounts sitting here that I run with, that I do work with. You should only have one of these accounts here, which is obviously going to be your business account. And this should look pretty familiar because this is usually the starting point when you jump into your account here. So you'll basically pick one of your accounts. Once you've gone into that, you should see a few things that you're going to be needing for Facebook ads. One of those things is obviously your ads manager, and this is where you manage all your ads, as the name implies, but there's a few other things that you're going to have access to within here. Audiences is one that's very important. You've got your events manager, which is very important, and then your ad account setting. Anyone who wants to run ads on Facebook needs to have one or two things. You need to have a Facebook page that is associated with the business that you're going to run ads for. An Instagram account will be great because you can also publish your ads on Instagram through this service here. And essentially, those are the two main things you're going to need. So I'm just going to jump in. What am I going to do first? Event manager. Event manager is important. The reason this is important, you might have heard of the Facebook pixel. And a pixel is nothing more than a small piece of code that you need to implement on your website or wherever you're going to send traffic to. Because what happens is that little bit of code, I'll show you up here. This little bit of code essentially is a pixel, and that will track visitors to see what they're doing on the website, whether they're just going to your homepage, if they're going to your contact page, what devices they were on, where they're coming from. So Facebook really tracks everything that they can based on what's available. And by having that information, you can actually do smarter things like retargeting, which means, for example, if somebody visits your homepage and looks at your pricing, but then they drop out, you can then tell Facebook, hey, I want to send new ads to the people who have gone to my pricing page, but didn't sign up. And you can send them an ad that says something along the lines of, hey, 24 hours, super discount for 50% off or whatever it might be, because essentially this is how you make the most out of this whole platform. Data is the most important thing. It's not about the ad. It's about tracking everything and making sure that you get in front of people with the right sort of ad at the right time. And I'm just going to go through setting up an ad and how that would look. So you would log in here. You can see 3 tabs on the top. You got campaigns, ad sets, and ads. A campaign is essentially where you set, and I'll show you what that looks like. You pick your objective here. A campaign is essentially a few things. Either you can do awareness, you can just get clicks or traffic, you want to get engagement on your ad itself, or you want people to watch your video. Leads is important because this is usually where you can actually get people to fill in their details. Like when you fill in a form on Facebook, the advertiser will get that information and can reach out to you. You can promote an app if you want, and then sales is usually for e-commerce. Sorry, I can't see the chat. So yeah, so if you got any questions, just pop them in the chat in the meantime. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to start off with is let's say you have no data, and that means you have no pixel installed, you don't have any tracking. Facebook has no idea who your ideal clients are, what people are doing with your website. Usually what we want to do is to start building an audience to teach Facebook, hey, this is a type of person I want to get in front of. Can you please check within this big audience if you can find people that are similar to what we're looking for? So if I'm going to go, for example, with traffic. Now, the reason I would choose traffic is because it's cheap. Getting clicks is a lot cheaper than if I were to have a campaign objective of conversions, like getting people to buy something, because that's a high value conversion. A lot of advertisers are bidding on that because it's essentially an auction. So traffic is usually the quickest way to get started if you have no data. So I'm just going to pick traffic in this case. And then what's going to happen is you can now see these three layers here: new traffic campaign, new traffic set, and new traffic ad. Basically, they correspond with your campaign tab, your ad set tab, and then your ad itself, which we just looked at here. So you can see here the campaign is now set up. There's nothing in here, but we're going to then tap through to ad sets. So automatically one new ad set will be added to your campaign, and then there will be an ad essentially, which is blank at this stage. So we're going to just go from left to right and start configuring things. In your traffic campaign, you want to hit edit. And then in here, if you scroll down a little bit, you can do a few things. Now, categories is something that you don't have to do 9 out of 10 times. This is really for people that have highly regulated industries where like credit cards, employment, housing, that kind of stuff. We don't have any of this. So we're just going to go through the next section here. Auction is essentially, like I said, how you basically tell Facebook, hey, this is my ad, I want to get in front of these people, and this is how much I'm willing to spend per click. Facebook then looks at all the other advertisers that basically want to do the same thing, and they pick and choose who they think is most relevant. Campaign objective here, we can always jump back in and make changes afterwards. However, not every objective will have the same features available. So if I would, for example, put leads in, I would need to build out a lead form as well, which I can't use for traffic, for example. So make sure that before you start anything, you really consider, what am I trying to achieve? If you have that set up here in your campaign, chances are later down the track, if you want to change it, you'll have to redo the whole thing, because Facebook is going to tell you, look, you've selected a few options that are not available in any of these other ones. Okay. So traffic is the one we selected, and feel free to just like click on all the buttons, right? Like usually when there's like show more options or whatever it might be, or click the little eye behind like any things that you don't understand, because the information button basically gives you a little bit more understanding of what it all means. Campaign spending limit. This is essentially when you want to say, look, I don't want to spend more in total than however much money. I normally don't use that because I just set a start and stop date with a budget allocated to the day or the lifetime of the campaign. A/B testing is essentially important when you have a bigger budget running, because what Facebook does, it'll try to figure out, hey, let's say we've got two different ads. You're telling me that we've got $400 a day to play with. We're going to try and see which one of these ads performs better, and Facebook is going to try and figure out what actually gives you the best bang for your buck. However, we'll get to a point now a little bit later down the track where we can actually do that on a smaller scale, and we don't have to have a much bigger budget. So I usually leave this off for smaller campaigns. And then your Advantage Campaign Budget Plus, which is essentially just a fancy name for letting Facebook do the work. This used to be Campaign Budget Optimization. They've recently changed this for a new brand, new name. And this is something I would normally turn on. So what this does is essentially distribute your budget across ad sets to get more results depending on your delivery optimization and strategy, etc. I would just flick that on. And essentially what this means is that if I have multiple ad sets running, Facebook is going to try and figure out, hey, where should we spend the money? So they basically do the same thing as an A/B test, but at a smaller scale, and you don't have to have that much of a budget difference. So use this if you have a smaller budget. Okay. And bid strategies have changed. Let's see, there's always some updates happening here, and I'm not going to go through these now because I don't really use those. And I've been doing this since 2012 or 13 now. So I've seen a lot of changes happening over the platform. All right, campaign budget. So you can have a few choices here. You want to do lifetime budget or a daily budget. A daily budget is essentially, look, Facebook, I'm going to give you $20 a day. Do whatever you want. Try to spend this money. Try to get me as many of the events or the conversions that I'm looking for. If you say lifetime budget, you can say, well, I'm going to run this for a week maybe. And you get, obviously, you can see here, $700. Now, what happens is a lifetime budget means that some days it might only spend a minimum amount. Sometimes, some days it might actually spend a lot more if Facebook can find more ideal clients or ideal prospects. And essentially they, within that time period, use the $700, but it's not the same every single day. So just to keep things simple, we're going to stick with a daily budget. And I'm just going to use $20, like the default. So at any given day, you'll see here, some days you'll spend up 25 and other days you'll spend 20, but on average, you're going to spend 20 bucks a day. All right, then there's a campaign bid strategy. And this is usually where people sometimes get confused. So highest volume is essentially trusting Facebook to do the right thing and making, trusting them that their algorithms and their computer learning and their artificial intelligence does a better job than any human can. If you get a little bit more advanced, you can say, well, I want to have a cost per result, which means that you can do certain things like to say, Facebook, look, if all the other advertisers are running just, the highest volume, that is the automatic pick and choose. If you're going to say, well, actually, I'm happy to bid a little bit more per conversion, quite often you'll come up on top of the auction results, and your ad is going to be shown versus any of the other advertisers. Having said that, this is a little bit more advanced. So I'm just going to stick to the higher volume section for now, because this is really what most people need. And what we're going to go for is, if once I'm happy with all these settings, new traffic campaign, and I'm just going to keep that as is, and we're going then hit next. Next, we'll push us down a little bit in that second tab here, which is now the ad set. And essentially an ad set is where we can do a lot of things like targeting, what sort of demographic we want to get in front of, where do we want to send people to, what page is associated, start and stop date, all that stuff has all really been set up in here. So what we're looking for here is, if I want to send traffic, and what I want to do is send people to a website. So we'll click the website option here. You can also obviously select apps, Messenger, WhatsApp, and calls. Essentially what it means is that whenever you put your ad out, there's going to be a blue button that says something like learn more, get started, contact us, whatever it might be, and it will send that click to one of these. Now, traffic to the website is the most common one that we use. So as a coach or service-based business, you probably have a program or an offer or that you want to, obviously sell to people. So usually we try and send people directly to that page, because that usually converts better than just sending people to home pages and that kind of stuff. Then there's a section here that's called dynamic creative, and dynamic creative is that sort of builds on the Advantage budget plus that we talked about, because what this does, it'll allow you, when we get to the next section in the ads, to not just create one single ad, but you can upload 10 different images or videos, 5 different headlines, 5 different ad copies, 5 different call to actions. And what happens is you're basically telling Facebook, look, you've got a bunch of options here to create an ad. These are all the elements of an ad. And what Facebook does is they'll mix and match. And every time they serve your ad, they pick one different image, a different headline. And essentially what they do is they do A/B testing, but in a very small meta level, so to speak. And you can read the results afterwards to see, well, this image is getting more clicks, or that headline is getting more clicks, and you can sort of base your decision on how to optimize your campaigns on the data you're going to get back. So I normally flick this on because I'm kind of a big fan of this. And you can see here, so how to create these ads with dynamic creative. You can provide creative elements, images, headlines, etc. So that's essentially what we're going to go for. And this is an easier way to, once again, do a bit of split testing and let Facebook really give Facebook the room, the space to figure out what works best. Then what we're going to go for is here, optimization. And this is important. So optimization for ad delivery, and I'll click on the info button here. So you choose the event that you want to optimize for in your ad set. Your selection affects who sees your ads to get you the desired outcome. So, for example, if you choose to optimize for link clicks, we're going to show your ad to the people who are most likely to click your link. There's a few options here. So link clicks is one of them, landing page views is one, and daily unique reach and impressions. Biggest difference here is links are cheap, or clicks are cheap, right? So what happens is somebody can see an ad and they accidentally click it, and then they go, oh, I didn't mean to click it, and they'll bounce out of it. They basically hit the back button, or they close the app, or whatever it might be. Facebook doesn't care. You've got the click, you're going to pay for that. If you optimize for anything like this, I would highly recommend going for landing page views. And what that means is Facebook is going to show the ad to people who they know based on the history of the user that are more likely to actually click on a link and then open up the full page that they're going to and have a look at it. Because people that just click links don't always see the actual page. Caveat here is that link clicks are cheaper landing page are more expensive to optimize for, not that much more expensive, but you'll find that there's a difference in quality of traffic that you're driving. So you can do link clicks in certain times, like when you say, look, I really want to have a really, really cheap campaign. I just need to have a lot of volume to learn about my audience, to teach Facebook what's working. And we'll get to a point after this where we're going to go talking about retargeting. You can still retarget people who click the link. You can still retarget people who viewed the page, etc. Daily unique reach is we'll deliver ads to people up to once a day. And the impressions here is when we're going to show as many people as we can, or as many times as we can, to really get maybe that brand awareness happening, or whatever you might want to use it for. I normally go landing page views simply because that tells me that this is the person who clicked the ad, clearly was interested in what the ad had to say, was curious about what's behind it, they clicked it, and they actually looked at the page. So I know that there's more buyer intent or user intent there than it is somebody who just clicked the link. Does it all make sense so far? And like I said, just make sure that any questions you have, just pop them in the chat and I'll try to answer them as we go. All right, budget and scheduling. Oh, and here, by the way, you have your cost per result. You can have some changes here if you want to, but you'll have to go back to the ad set, the campaign level to choose a different objective. And then some of these things that are currently grayed out will actually open up. Okay, so your budget and schedule is essentially when do you want to start, when do you want to add to stop. So let's say you've got a webinar upcoming or an event or masterclass, whatever you might be running as maybe a coach or a therapist. You know, there's going to be a cutoff date. So you want to maybe have people see the ad for up to like an hour before the actual event starts, because then you can say, well, clearly if somebody clicks on this after the event has started, you know, there's no point really sending traffic to that page because it's already done. So you can definitely set this up. And keep in mind that your time zone when you set up your account is in the right time zone and the right currency, because quite often I see people that set up an account and it might be Sydney time instead of Perth time, for example. I'm in Perth myself. And then, yeah, you're going to have that mismatch with, hey, the event was 3 hours ago and you still show me these ads. You can have an end date if it's an offer, for example. So there's a few options that you can change there. Ad spend limits is nothing more than having the minimum target spend limit or maximum to control the spend on this one specific ad set, right? Okay, now we're going to get into a little bit more interesting stuff. So this is audiences. Audiences is essentially the bucket of people that you want to show your ad to. Audiences, we normally in marketing terms, we look at cold audiences and warm audiences. Cold audience is essentially somebody who's never heard of you, doesn't know what you do, doesn't even know that the service is something that they might be looking for. This is purely somebody who we're trying to convince that, hey, maybe this is something that you could use or want to subscribe to or whatever it might be. A warm audience is somebody who already has affinity with either yourself, your product, your service, or the industry itself. So this is somebody who already is aware of the fact that this is something that exists, and these usually typically convert better than people that are in your cold audiences. But then again, cold audiences are cheaper. So you can build up a lot of data with colder audiences and then start retargeting to make them warm audiences. And then that conversion happens along that line. All right, so one of the big things here, if I go to custom audiences, and I don't have anything in here because this is a blank ad account, there's not much information in here. And I'm going to show you an example in a bit about one of my clients. But essentially, if you would have an existing audience in here already, you can actually basically save all your audiences and tell Facebook, this is the audience I want to go for. Now, if I'm going to build out an audience, so let's say coaching service Australia-wide, and I work with people between 35 and 55. So we're going to make some of these changes happen here. So if I'm going to say, look, I want to work with people between 35 and 55. And let's say you work with both genders, they're in Australia. Now, a little caveat here, when you pick the location or the area, there's a few options you can choose. People living here or recently in this location. I always pick people living in this location. Reason being that you're gonna not have any tourists that might be getting caught up in your audiences and stuff, because you know, if somebody goes back home to, I don't know, Europe or something after a nice holiday here in Australia, they're never ever going to be a client. So make sure that you select the right option there for your locations. And then obviously you can pick Australia. But if I'm going to say, look, I just want to have people in Perth, let's say, I want to highlight people that are in Perth, and I'm going to pick Perth, Western Australia here. And then you'll see that the map down here will tell you roughly like this is the area where we're going to potentially show your ads. These are people that live in this location. You can make some changes here, so you can widen the radius if you wanted to. So, 50 miles, for example, and you'll see Joondalup, Mandurah, Rockingham. These areas are all covered technically. One of the things that you'll need to look at on the right-hand side, you get some information that updates your audience based on the selections that you make in the middle. So on the right-hand side, you see, okay, we've got a defined audience, and essentially we estimate that, there's 550 to 650,000 people that are going to see my ad. Now I'll show you if I, for example, change my genders here and I say, I'm just going to work with women. On the right-hand side, now the estimated audience size has gone down to 300 to 350,000. So based on who you work with, who your ideal client avatar is, et cetera, make the changes here in the audiences. And then you can do a few more things. So let's say I'm going to have a very specific area, and I'm going to make this as small as I can. And it's a very small radius. And you'll see here, in this case, because it's Perth, that probably doesn't change much, but normally that would actually go a lot smaller, this audience. I would always say, look, especially in the beginning, your top of funnel, which is essentially the cold traffic that you want, as many people as you can get into your ad, have 200,000 to 300,000 people in your audience at any given stage, because that gives Facebook plenty of space to look around to find the right people. Sometimes you'll have a very specific defined audience, and you might even have like maybe 10,000 people max. It's going to be very hard and costly, because Facebook is going to really focus on the high affinity people, but a lot of advertisers are trying to get in front of those people as well with conversions, and they're willing to pay more for their ads. So if you widen that up, Facebook is going to look around the edges and really try to find the best clients for the budget that you've given Facebook to work with. All right, any questions so far, you guys? I don't see anything in the chat just yet, so that's okay. Moving down, are we actually, how many participants have we got? We just have the 2 still. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, going down here, detailed targeting. Essentially what you can do here is, let's say, okay, I know that I want to work with, you might be a business coach. So I'm going to search here, and I'm going to search for business, just the keyword business, and I'm going to have a look through here. And you'll see on the right-hand side, it'll be in the interest section, for example, people are interested in business, but you'll see also here is behaviors. And essentially small business owners is a popular targeting option. And essentially what we'd be looking for here, you can already see here now, this is really significantly going down to 5,000 to 6,000 people. So I'm just going to go for all, and that's doubled up a little bit, but it's still quite small. Then obviously we're going to go back into this radius to max radius. It'll be a little bit bigger, but yeah, as you can see, it's significantly smaller. Now, what we're telling Facebook is like, look, I want you to find people between 35 and 55, any gender, and their typical behavior is small business owner. Now, Facebook looks at a bunch of things like what makes them think that somebody is a small business owner. This could be being a Facebook business page admin. If somebody does a lot of business talk, they refer to the word business a lot in their posts. They sell a lot of things in their posts. Like, there's a bunch of data points that Facebook will look at to make basically a decision if this is somebody who is an ideal client for you. So in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually bump this back up to Australia wide to give you a little bit a better sample. Yeah, so we've got 165 to nearly 200,000 people, small business owners in Australia, according to Facebook, or at least active Facebook users. Yeah, that's a good question. I'll get to that, Kerry. $20 for a daily budget. I'll get to that. Okay, so languages, and oh, sorry, we're here. So we can also exclude people, and this is sometimes important when, for example, you build a custom audience and you have a lead magnet. So you're sending out a lead magnet, and you want to, that lead magnet would send somebody to an opt-in page and whatever it might be. So once somebody downloads a lead magnet, usually one of two things happens. They go to a page where they download the lead magnet, and because we use that Facebook pixel, the tracking, Facebook knows that as soon as somebody gets to a thank you page, which is essentially the page that you will only ever see once you've downloaded the lead magnet, for example. So that page is like, hey, thanks for downloading. Here's your link, whatever it might be. I'm sure you've seen this. What happens is we can actually build an audience based on people who visited that thank you page. And we can go into the exclude here, and we can actually pick the audience that we say, look, we don't want to show this ad to people who have already downloaded our lead magnet. So Facebook can then see, okay, these are the people in this audience, in these 200,000 people that have actually visited the landing the thank you page. So we know that they've downloaded the lead magnet. There's no point in us showing that ad again. So we want to exclude people. So you really shape your audience based on what you're trying to get in, like show people, and who you're trying to get in front of, and what sort of actions you want them to take based on the previous actions that they potentially have done. And I know this is a lot to get your head around probably, but does it all make sense so far? I know I talk a lot and I talk quick, but let me know if it all makes sense. So essentially, we're really building out an audience here based on what we're trying to achieve. Advantage detail targeting plus. Once again, this is essentially if I got a really small audience, if I click that button, now all of a sudden Facebook tells me, hey, you've got 6 or 7 million people. What Facebook does here is like, look, we're going to first and foremost try to find your ideal client in this smaller segment. But if we can't find somebody for the right price because you're not having enough budget, for example, if you click that button, they will try to look outside of that audience, still trying to spend your $20 a day to get the best possible conversions. So that's something that you can use, but just keep in mind that it does mean that you're kind of diluting the strength of your audience, and you're basically trusting Facebook to find the right people. So there's no wrong or right answer here, and sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't, and it's all about testing and data. So you got more options here. You can do a few things here. Connections. I don't really use these because this is like, people who like or follow your page, friends of people who like your page, etc., etc. I don't really use any of this stuff because generally we have a very strict sort of setup in terms of how we run our campaigns. We've done this for years and we understand exactly how to get in front of the right people with the right messaging. But yeah, you can use this as an option if you want to maybe build out an audience initially to get some stuff happening. Good stuff. Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome, Andrew. All right. Now, some of the cool things here, once you've built that initial audience here, you can hit save and you can say, I'm going to save this audience as my, default audience or whatever it might be. You can give it a name and you see here, location, age, what behaviors they have, and what the advanced detailed targeting is. So you can say, for example, here, okay, this is AU, so that's Australia. Oh, let me just. So what I would do here is, and naming conventions are important because I see a lot of people starting ads and they all kind of name their audiences different and their ad campaigns differently. But ideally you have like a naming convention that anybody can understand. So once you hire an advertiser, for example, somebody who runs ads for you, they kind of know what's happening where, and they can see what the actual factors are that are contributing to success or failure. So 35, and then we're going to say male, female. And then, we can say, for example, so the behavior here would be small business owners, and that's it. So once I save this audience, what happens now? I can always go back into my audience section here and down here, and you'll see that this audience, hopefully, is now here. So you have a whole list of audiences that you can use here, and you can pick and choose and make changes, etc. Now, I'm going to jump in audiences after this. I'm just going to go back to the actual ad for now to finish that up because yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here, and don't worry if it's all going like too quick. Like once you start doing this, it'll start making sense essentially. All right, back to campaigns. So we got that traffic campaign, and we were working on this ad set. We're going to hit edit. So we've got the website here. And then one of the main things that I do to name, like to stick with the naming convention, because I've picked this audience here now that I created, I just copy that name of the audience and I'm going to rename my total ad set to that audience. So now that I know this ad set here, this is specifically what it is. And like you see, anybody who can just jump in and it's like, okay, we're targeting Australia. This is the age bracket, male, female, and they have an affinity for small business owners. Great. So I know exactly what's happening there. So what we do now here, we basically, let's turn that off, look at placements. And placements is where do I want to show? So we've decided who we're going to show this ad to, but now we want to say, where are we going to get in front of them? Advantage plus placements is essentially let Facebook do whatever they want. And that means that, yes, you're going to get on Instagram, the news feed, videos, Messenger, but you're also going to end up on a bunch of websites where that are partners for Facebook. So you'll sometimes see like random apps, for example, they'll be showing different ads, and that's all through Facebook. If you choose manual placements here, you can actually have much more control over where you want to show your ad. So obviously Facebook, Audience Network, and Instagram are the big ones. Because we selected an option here, Messenger is currently blanked out because we should have picked Messenger here at the very top for the conversion to actually show ads in Messenger. So Messenger at this moment is just not available. Now, if I open these up, you'll see all the placements. Facebook feed, Instagram feed, marketplace, video feeds, the right column, which is when you're on your desktop on the right-hand side, there'll be a smaller ad. And all of these placements do have a, different outcomes. Facebook feed and Instagram feed are usually the big ones where a lot of advertisers are trying to get in front of, because obviously this is the biggest sort of thing that most people will be looking at, because you're trying to figure out where's my user's attention. And I don't know about you, but I hardly ever see the ads in the top right. If I happen to look at it, I might go, oh, I've seen that before, but usually I don't even look at that. And you would typically use something like that placement for retargeting. So because it's a cheaper placement, not many advertisers will try and go there. And you're basically making an assumption that, look, it's going to be much cheaper to place it on there. And if somebody sees my ad, we're probably retargeting them at this stage. And it just makes more use of your budget. Now, different placements also means you have to have different creative, and some places you'll have videos or stories or reels, or simply because the space is different on whatever device you're trying to get on. So we have to make sure that all the copy, content, and creative will actually fit on the placement. Stories and reels, I don't really use this, but I know that a few people that I know use this quite successfully. A lot of people, they'll be scrolling through their stories and their Instagram reels because it's auto refresh, auto loads, and it's basically an upgraded version of your news feed. It hooks people in, and you have a little bit more space to play with on this, obviously, because you can make some bigger screen things happening. In-stream ads, these are usually ads that will, halfway through watching a Facebook video, an ad will pop up, same as YouTube, like it'll actually interrupt your experience. I don't really use them because I don't think anybody likes to watch videos with ads. Search, so whatever search assets they might have, their messages, like I said, that's a different conversion optimization. In articles, so sometimes there's instant articles on Facebook, like if you open up a link to an external website on Facebook on your app, for example, Facebook doesn't open Safari, they don't open Chrome, they actually have their built-in browser that they will use through the app, and there you can place ads that way. So even though you're looking at an external website like news.com.au, Facebook can still put their own ads on there because they're essentially hosting that page. You're not actually going to the news.com page itself. And then apps and sites. So there's a bunch of places where you can essentially have your ads running there as well. Typically, I would go for advantage placements, especially top of funnel. Once again, a lot of cold audience, and just let Facebook figure out what actually works. Some of these placements are more expensive than others, so they really try to make the best of your budget. If you're a little bit more advanced, I would go manual. Usually the feeds are the main places that I like to go into because I know that we're getting a lot of response there. All right, let's see. No questions so far. And then, we got more options here. This is pretty cool. So we can do certain things like, okay, I just want to show this on Android and iOS. Let's say iOS. Then you can choose, I want to just show this on iPads and iPhones, etc., etc. You can even go as far as I want to have these operating systems. So they have to have, iOS 16.1 just came out today. But you can essentially pick and choose here. Look, I want to show people that are on this type of operating system. If they have this, then I want to show the ad. If they don't have this, I don't want to show my ads to them. So you can make a bunch of decisions. Typically, we find that people on Apple devices they buy more stuff online than people on Android devices. I'm not sure why, but that's just a given in terms of marketing. So people on Apple devices are likely to spend more than people on Android devices. So you can go granular here to say, I really want to show this just to people on Android devices, on tablets, and then I want to have, once again, whatever version they're on. All right, another option you can choose here, I don't want to do this when they're connected to Wi-Fi. Reason you might want to be doing that is like if somebody is in the shops, for example, at Kohl's and the checkout, and they're browsing their phone, they see your ad, it's interesting, they want to click on it, they click on it, and then it's their turn to, pay for their stuff. They put their phone in their pocket and they're gone. If they're connected to Wi-Fi, chances are they're actually at a place of work or at home. So they're sitting somewhere where they're most likely, less likely to be interrupted and actually make a, follow through with whatever action we're trying to get them to make. Does it all make sense so far? No questions yet, so that's okay. Okay, jumping through this. Brand safety, you don't really have to do much here, especially for the business that you guys are in. So I'm just going to skip all these. I'm just going to go up to the top. So what we do here, advantage plus placements, let Facebook do the thinking essentially, because you can see all the options here are now gone. All right, then we're going to hit next. And next is your ad. And you can see we've skipped from the campaign tab to the ad set tab, and now we're actually in the ad tab. So this is your ad. So what they're going to ask for a few things. Which Facebook page do we want to be associated with? And as you can see, I've got a couple of pages here. And if I would say, I'm just going to go with this is one of my own ones. And I can select my Instagram account if I was advertising. I don't use ads on my own account for this one. But if you would have your Instagram account connected to your business manager, it'll pop up here. And essentially that will be used in your placements as well. Okay. Ad setup, manual upload. Catalog is usually when you have an e-commerce store, so you can synchronize, for example, a Shopify store that has products that you're selling, and Facebook can see exactly what's in stock, and you can build out a catalog that you synchronize with that. And yeah, you can select it up here. Now, some of the things you can do here, your format or carousel. A carousel is essentially when you look at a carousel, you'll see. Let me see if I'm going to just grab a picture somewhere. Hold on, because I have to. Pexels.com, by the way, you can get free photos here. All right, I'm just going to get this photo, download, and we're going to grab this one as well, download. All right, cool. So what we're going to do is in the ad itself, a carousel, for example, will have two different, when you're scrolling, you can actually go left or right, where you'll see a little bit of the next photo pop up, and this way you can actually get a few more ads at the same time in one space. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first and foremost upload my assets here. Manually upload. We don't want to use that. We don't have to use this either. Okay, so here's a section, media section. So you can put your images in, your videos, or you can even create. So they have some tools that will help you create like really basic types of videos with some background music and that kind of stuff. But if I'm gonna upload here, I can actually pick two of these here. I'm gonna go for that one and that one. I'm just gonna pick two random images. So they don't really do much, but you'll see in a second here what it will look like. Actually, can I use those? I can't use those. They're a different account. Hold on. I'm going to have to upload some. Website, business. Where's my upload? There, my upload. And recent. Is it on downloads? Yep. So these two here. I'm going to upload these two pictures. And this is obviously something you would build in Canva, maybe. I don't know if you guys have used Canva before. Canva.com is really, really handy for using to build out ads. But essentially what's going to happen here is I'm going to grab my domain name here. Page approve. If I add my website here, it's actually going to scan my website and see if there's any images on there that they can use. I don't have any images on my website at the moment, so we don't really use that. But if you have a website, stick that in there, and it's going to basically give you the options to import your images from your website. And then your website URL here, I'm just going to add my website there, and you'll see once I've done that, it'll actually give me the preview on the right-hand side. So as you can see, we can go through what the placement would technically look like. So you got your Instagram, your Facebook, etc. But because we wanted to select a carousel, I'm going to click carousel. And now you'll see that a carousel looks slightly different. So you can see like a little bit of the image on the other side here. And you can click on that. And now you can essentially have multiple options. So one of these could be, for example, why don't you come and visit our offer page, learn more about our sales offer. And the next one here could be a testimonial. So you can say, hey, this is a person who's actually worked with us before, and this is what they had to say about our product or our service. So carousel can work really well. Having said that, I would normally test these. I would have one ad that is a single image ad, and then the second ad, I would have a carousel ad, and then compare basically once we spend the same amount of money to both of these ads, we basically want to then pick and choose what works better. So primary text here obviously is the the main thing that they've got there. So I'm just going to copy that as an example. You can then select add a text option. The reason we can do this is because if you remember, we go back into the campaign set, ad set, and we selected dynamic creative. If I don't select that here, I will not have an option here to add more bits and pieces. So it's going to be more limited. So I'm just going to add an example here. So just to make that different. So essentially we have these two primary texts now, and every time Facebook will serve up my ad, it's either going to show this one or that one in conjunction with maybe that photo or that photo, etc. So this is why the dynamic creative testing comes into play. Headlines, obviously, chat with us will be one. Then we can have a second one, chat with us now, hello, whatever it might be. This, like your headline is usually the main thing that will attract people to click. So even though I go through it quickly now because I'm wary of the time, make sure that you actually have some proper copy here. And let's say we're going to go back to single images here. You'll see here that these are, and if I click on advanced preview, you'll see that these are essentially sort of the options that are out there. Now, Facebook, once again, is going to decide what they're going to show. Is it this ad? Is it that photo? Is it going to be this text? Is it going to be that text? Whatever it might be, these are this is the mix that you're essentially going to get. All right, everybody still with me so far? I probably should make this a 2-hour session instead of a 1-hour session in hindsight, but I'll try to get us through as much as I can in the next 17 minutes. All right. Description. Essentially, description is something you'll see here. Like you'll see once I type that and I hit enter, it'll do the preview, and then you'll see where it actually puts the description, for example. Now, description will not always show, so depending on the placement, so depending if it's going to be on Facebook or Instagram, but you can always use it as an additional call to action, because on the placements that it will show up on, people do scan and they will see these things. So your headline, because it's bolded, that's usually what attracts the eye. Typically, people look at when they're scrolling their Facebook feed, they'll see the photo first and foremost. Then they'll look at the headline, call to action, because these things stand out. And then they'll probably go click on see more. And then they'll read the rest of the actual ad, right? So make sure that all those elements are actually in place, so you have the best possible opportunity or chance to get that click. All right, so website URL, like I said, this is where we're going to send people. And underneath here, it says build a URL parameter. What that means, I'm going to show you quickly. So once you click on that, you'll get this little pop-up box. There's only two things you have to do. If you go in that first field where it says campaign source, you just scroll all the way down where it says site source name between brackets. Between brackets means that Facebook is dynamically going to figure out where your placement was, or whether it was on Instagram, on Facebook, or whatever. And then your campaign medium is essentially the placement section, because this is going to tell you, like you see here, if it was in a banner, on an email, Facebook feed, or an Instagram story. And the other two you can sort of skip. So if I hit apply, you'll see now that my link here, digitalcoach.co, now is a question mark, UTM source, etc. And essentially all this means is you'll still go to my page, the digitalcoach.co page, but in your analytics, etc., now you can actually track to see, hey, the visitors that we were getting from this month, we can see that these came from the Facebook feed or the Instagram feed or whatever it might be. So that's always a handy thing to do, simply because it'll give you more information, and the more information you have, the smarter decisions you can make in your ad campaign. Display link is essentially, where is it? Digital Coach Co. So display link, you'll see again on the right-hand side, the preview will show you now that, hey, this is digitalcoach.co. Now, sometimes you'll send traffic to an external website, like a news article, for example, even though it's not your own website. And sometimes when you use like a piece of software, like ClickFunnels, for example, or whatever is out there that people use, make sure that this is always a clean link. sometimes you'll see like, free.site / lead magnet generation offer, because that's how they built the landing page, and that's the link for the landing page, but it doesn't look very trustworthy. So always make sure that you just use your own domain there. Now, tracking is the pixel. The pixel that we just talked about is essentially the piece of information on your website that's going to track people. And I'm going to show you how we can figure out if it works or not. So there is a tool in Chrome, which is called the Pixel Helper. It's just an extension. And once we've installed that, you can see here clearly that, hey, this is installed. This is the actual code that's there. Copy the clipboard. So this one ends in 1359. That's the actual Pixel ID. And you can see here, we can choose, if we select website events for tracking, it'll say, well, this is the pixel that's associated with that website. Is that the one you want to track? And then, yes, you can select that one. And now we know for sure that Facebook knows that whatever ads we're going to be putting out there are going to be associated with that page and this pixel. So this is how we connect all the bits and pieces up so far. All right. URL parameters, same thing as we had above. So I'm not sure even why I put it down here, but yeah. And offline events is essentially like when you have a client list or a store, like people walk in and buy your product. You can still upload your information here to say, these people bought this product, and then Facebook will sort of put that back into their learning to understand that even though this is an offline conversion, an offline event, we can still track and attribute the success to that specific pixel. Okay, and then once you're done, you hit publish. And what happens when you hit publish? So I'm just going to hit publish, and you'll see what happens here. Essentially, Facebook is going to put this in the queue. I'm just going to skip that because I don't need this. Facebook is going to put this in their review queue. You can see it's publishing now. And one more thing, actually, I would change. Sorry. So the ad name, if that's dynamic creative, I would just call that, dynamic creative. If this is going to be a specific ad, like you're running a carousel ad, then make sure that you call it a carousel ad, etc. So make sure, once again, that the naming convention is clear so people know exactly what you're sort of running. So closing this up, you'll see now at the very top here, on this section here, you see that it's processing. So if I go back to the campaign and I just hit the refresh button there, it'll say no ads. Then I go to the ad set and it'll say ads are inactive. And if I go to the ad, it'll show it's processing. So it'll go from processing. So that means the system will automatically scan and check, and if everything's okay, they're going to look at your landing page. They're going to make sure that it's all above board and legit, that you're not trying to scam anybody, that you're going with their guidelines and terms and conditions. So you're not making, big promises that you can't deliver, etc. Then it goes into a review stage once the system has processed this, and that means it's a human person. Yeah, obviously a human person. It's a person on the other end. They've got offshore teams that basically will go and manually check to make sure everything's okay. And then the ad will go into running. So, and this could take up to maybe 24 hours at some time. So when you put ads in, 24 hours later, you'll see that they're on or off. To flick your ad off, you can just switch the ad off here. If you want to have the entire ad set turned off, you can switch off the ad set. And if you want to turn your entire campaign off, you can turn the campaign off. Now, you can still have a campaign up and running, and you could have 2 different ad sets maybe, or 3 or 4, whatever you're testing. And then you can quickly decide, hey, some of these are working, some of these are not. So you can turn off individual either ad sets, or you can turn off individual ads. So does that all make sense so far? Because I want to jump quickly into one of my client accounts, so to show you with a bit of data what it all kind of looks like, and how that all works. So let me pick, let's see who I'm going to go for. Where is it? Okay, we're going to go for these guys. Okay. No, it's actually, I'm going to go for this one. All right, so it all makes sense so far still? Perfect. I'm glad to hear it. And you can always follow up with me after the session if you want to have more information, because I understand that this is something that in an hour is going to be very, very quickly. Okay, so looking at we've got an ad account here, which is one of my clients, right? And we've got a few different things happening here. Now, she's running a masterclass today, actually. So she's actually got people to opt into a masterclass, and I'll show you what that page looks like. This one. So we built a page for her and she's doing a masterclass, and the idea is for her to get people onto this webinar / masterclass. And then at the end of it, she'll pitch like a discovery call or, getting people to have a chat with her. So we built this page and this is what we're sending people to. So what we're capturing here essentially is first name, last name, and email address. And then once they register, they go into an automation. So ActiveCampaign will send those people an email to say, hey, you've just registered, here's your details, etc. So we've now captured their information. You can see that there's a pixel installed here, which is tracking everything. And if I would submit my details here, the pixel will then fire a specific event, and that event will be called, I think it's registration completed. Conversion, yeah. So we can see the conversions happening here in real life to see, okay, what pages are actually sending this information. And we can see here, okay, complete registration is essentially the event that we're optimizing for to make sure that Facebook finds us the right people that are more likely to actually complete a registration. So we can see here, we started this campaign a week ago, and you can see all these, up and downs, but 20 people registered yesterday, 4 so far today, etc. So this will give us some information in terms of how it's all working. And we can build audiences based off these people. And the way we use those audiences, if I go back into the actual ad manager for that client, there we go. If I go to the ads in here, you'll see that if I pick, for example, we just turned the ads off, I think, because the, yeah, that's been turned off because the event is in 7 minutes. Yeah. So we turned that off because the event's happening or about to happen. So essentially what you can see here, first and foremost, I selected the date range, and I'm just going to go maximum, and it'll show us exactly, from all the way to the beginning to 2 minutes ago, basically. This is an audience that we send traffic to, right? So first and foremost, campaign, you'll see here that the, where did I put it there? So we're going to go for leads in this case, so not traffic, but we're trying to get leads. And this means we're bidding for conversions. So we're trying to get Facebook to find people that are more likely to actually submit their information. And what happens here, we've got a $50 a day budget. Then the audiences that we look at here, warm audience with no advantage plus. This has essentially been set up to target people who are most likely to already have an affinity with the client. And you'll see that here where the people we chose, for example, you can upload a customer list. And a customer list is either an email list or a database, or people that have paid you for your services, or people that have opted into your newsletter, whatever it might be. All those people will see this specific ad. We also are showing this ad to everybody who's ever visited the website in the last 180 days, which is the maximum time frame. So 6 months previous, everybody who's visited the landing page, the website itself, will be included into this audience, or anybody who's engaged with Instagram in the last year, people who've viewed some of these testimonial reels for more than 3 seconds and engaged with the actual Facebook page. So we put a bunch of people in here. Now, once you start adding your own sources, quite often estimated audience sizes become unavailable. However, we know that, by making this really broad, 18 to 65, et cetera, Facebook is going to catch as many people as they can based on the information that we've given them. You can see we use the advantage placements, so we don't really mess around with the actual placements there. And then you'll have 4 different types of ads that we're running. These are all video ads. And this is Danielle, one of my clients. And essentially, she has a whole section here about, why should you essentially join the webinar? What are you going to get from this, et cetera. We try to reinforce these things here that we're already talking about there. And so people know exactly what they're going to be expecting. And that just increases the conversion rate. So if I go for, I'm just going to log into this real quick, to the landing page backend, and you'll see here with the events, page view gets tracked, complete registrations get tracked, leads get tracked. A lead is somebody who would actually click on maybe a contact me button or whatever we set that up to. Subscribe is when somebody joins the newsletter, et cetera, et cetera. So as you can see, we can do a lot of tracking, and based on that tracking, we can then build out audiences to make different things happen. All right, come on, browser. I'm just going to log into this real quick. We're nearly there, guys. Another 5 minutes, and we can all go about our day. Zoom doesn't get in the way. Hold on, where are we? Sign in with Google. That's the one we're going for. Okay. All right. So these ads essentially, because we're using within this section here, the budget, sorry, where is it? Advantage campaign that's on, and this essentially is going to spend our money depending on what they think is the best ad in this section. To look at that, actually, when we click on here, we'll have these 4 ads here, and now they're all off, but we can actually see different results, right? And some of these results, I would be looking for performance and clicks. Some of these results we can see this ad was getting nearly $12 per registration, but we went down to $5.50 per registration. So some of these ads got turned off earlier because they were just too expensive. And then what happens, because your overall budget is still the same, Facebook is just going to push that budget to the other ads, depending on what we turn on or off. We've only got 1 ad set here. Usually I like to test on ad set levels initially, and then we go a little bit deeper with the ads themselves. But you can see it makes a big difference in terms of how they're getting perceived. CPM is how much we're paying to show that specific ad. Depending on a bunch of factors, Facebook will decide, well, it's going to cost you nearly $50 to show this ad to the same audience. It's only going to cost you $27 to show this ad to that audience. You can see the link clicks here. Obviously, a lot of link clicks coming through this one ad that was doing really well, which is the cheapest one. Your cost per click is the cheapest one, so it's $1.40, and your link click-through rate. This is an important metric to keep in mind. So link click-through is nothing more than somebody who's actually clicked on the ad to go to the page that you're trying to get them to. Reason why this is important, because this is the very beginning of your funnel. Even if I can get an uptick from 1% to 2%, it doesn't sound like a lot, but because of the back end, the conversions will sort of compound, and you're going to get a much bigger result at the end of it. And this could be, even thousands of dollars of difference, even though you're only getting a 1% uptake. So we got 4 ads there, and we can see that they're all doing okay. But for, having nearly 2% here is going to be a much more impactful ad. And Facebook has obviously shown this based on what they've seen, and they've shown this ad more than any of the other ones. You can see the impressions after, 250 to 500 sort of impressions. They really figured out, hey, this ad is actually getting more clicks compared to the other ones, and Facebook is automatically going to funnel your budget into this one specific ad here. You can see it's done well here: quality ranking, conversion rate ranking, etc. So this is all above average, which is great. And then this is the page that we use. So we build a specific landing page, not on your website, but on a specific tool that we use. And you can see here the conversion rates, right? So we had 224 visitors, 276 views, nearly 80 conversions, and that means a 35.2% conversion rate, which is great. So these are all people that we now have their details from. We've got their information. They're all into our email system, and they're going to start getting emails. It's pretty straightforward, but it's this is how it works. Sorry, this is how it works. We get people to click on ads, and we send them to a specific registration page, and then what we're trying to achieve is to get that conversion happening. All right, I'm gonna close those down because I'm looking at the time, and I'm gonna say a couple of more minutes if you have any questions. So the $20, is that enough for an ad budget? Yes and no. The more, especially when you have no data, the more you spend in the beginning, the more data you get, and the more refined and targeted Facebook can make your campaign. I often see people make the mistake where they think, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit, and if it works, I'm going to spend more. But that means you're going to have to spend a lot more time because Facebook doesn't get enough data. And we see some campaigns, for example, that start off at, we've got another one running at the moment for someone who is also running an event. Their initial conversions came in at about $15 to $20, which was high for what they're trying to do. But because we let that running for about a week, Facebook got smarter and smarter and smarter. And now those same conversions, the same ad without any changes within a week, have gone down from that number down to about $3 to $4 per conversion, simply because we gave Facebook the time to figure out what works. So $20 a day, yes, can be enough, but it depends how quickly you're trying to get things happening. And essentially what I would do is, rule of thumb for me is spend $5 per day per ad. So you would run 4 ads in this case, just like we just looked at. We have one ad set with 4 different ads. And essentially you're giving Facebook the opportunity to spend $5 per day per ad. And they'll, like I said, they're quickly going to figure out what works and what doesn't, and they'll move your budget around. But just to give them that space to figure out what actually works and what doesn't. Does that all make sense so far? And Have you got any questions or any takeaways that you've got from this? And feel free to jump on and unmute yourself and ask me instead of typing.